This is Jen Rhodes. If you haven't practiced with me before, I like to work a lot with meditative parts of yoga more than I do with physical parts. So we're kind of going to lean a little bit onto both today, and we're going to practice what we want to call self-forgiveness or self-love. So just go along with me as best as you can, and I'll show a little bit as what you can do in a chair first off here, just for those of you who may be seated. So we'll get started here. So I have my handy dandy chair back here. So if yours, sorry about that, guys. If yours have arms, feel free to change that up a little bit on the chair if you need to, but I'll demonstrate the best I can here. So if you're seated in a chair, if I'm telling you to be relaxed, back of the chair is right here, then I mean for you to lean back into your chair, place both feet solidly on the ground, and then simply just stay there. That will be for any resting pose. So anytime that I say that we're going to rest, this is where I'd like you to be. When we are doing any particular poses though, I want you to sit a little bit around the middle of the chair, where as close as you can to the edge within being safe without it tipping over, of course, and just extend your feet out so your knees are always over top of your ankles. When you're here, I want you to sit tall, and then we can always do twists by simply giving ourselves a little arm around the back. We can end up doing, anytime I say that we're going to fold forward, you can do one of these and simply let yourself hang over the chair, or you can come into this point and just rest your arms and give yourself a little release in the lower back. So you can twist, you can fold, you can extend legs out in front of you, so you can simply let one heel down and straighten legs. And also you can do our stretch for what's called figure four position, which is simply with your feet on the ground, lifting one ankle up and crossing it over your other knee. So this is an option for us too. So whenever we come into these positions, just be aware you can modify those as you need for being in a chair. Now, for the rest of us here, we're going to start on our backs. So if you can please find your way to a comfortable laying position. Those of you in chairs, just simply relax into your seats. And as you lay down or relax into your seat, go ahead and let yourself take a little bit of a sigh, a little bit of an exhale through the mouth. Maybe even make a little sound with it if it feels natural to you. And again, as far as anything goes with yoga, it's all about your own body and really doing what you believe is best in your body. So if something I say does not resonate with you, or you feel like it could injure you or irritate a current injury, feel free to sit that out. I promise I'm not going to be offended. So again, listen to your own bodies throughout. And we'll start by listening to our bodies after that sigh here, closing the eyes, knowing that the only responsibility we have for these next 30 or so minutes together is going to be just what we have to focus on. So we do not have to have any other thoughts going through our minds or work through any problems or anything like that. Right now, we are just focusing on what our body feels like in our seat or on the ground, and how our back of our body is relaxed and collapsing into it. So we want to have that melting feeling. So once we're there, again, close the eyes if you've not already, just so it takes away any outside distraction at all whatsoever. And I chose for today, again, in the theme of self-love and self-gratitude and also self-forgiveness, which we're really going to work on here today. I found a quote from Allison Mailey. She had said, "Choose every day to forgive yourself. You are human, flawed, and most of all, worthy of love." So I know we all get into these patterns, these mind patterns. And one of the biggest ones that's come over me, at least, and I could pretty much speak for the majority of my family and friends also, that it's pretty similar. But with forgiveness, it's a hard thing to do in the middle of a pandemic. So really forgiving yourself for not coming in fully to your day or to your practice or whatever you may do. If you meditate, if you, let's say you had a goal to meet and you didn't meet it because just full out stressful situations going on and things like that happening. Just know that it's okay to forgive yourself. We're human. We're meant to be flawed. We're meant to try our hardest, but if our hardest is tried and we may fail, forgive yourself. There's no need to harbor on to any of those excess stressful and strenuous feelings when you don't need to. So you're taking away your own peace by not forgiving yourself or forgiving others in some senses. So that's what we're really going to hone in on today. So I'd like you to think of a mantra. By a mantra, I mean something short, maybe even just a word, but you can make a small sentence out of it if you'd like. Something along the lines of, I do forgive myself, or I am forgiving, I am letting go, I am releasing stress, I am releasing any thoughts, anything along those lines that resonates with you, go for it. Keep that in mind throughout our class. So that's what we can anchor to whenever we have any type of doubt in our practice, or you have any thoughts in your mind that you're saying, hey, when is this crazy lady gonna stop talking to me about strange things that I haven't heard from before? Again, just try your very best to stay as present in this moment as you possibly can. So anytime you feel your mind wandering, come back to that mantra and come back into your own breath, which is what we're going to focus on now. Sorry, quick drink break. So as we are in our relaxed position, either sitting or laying down, we're not going to move a muscle just yet. We're going to keep our eyes closed. And I'd like you to place one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly. And take some breaths. So take about 2 or 3 breaths on your own, taking deep inhales, letting your belly rise. And deep exhales, which bring your belly button more toward your spine. Take a few of those breaths. See if any tension in your body is released by just simply breathing. Doing something that we do every day, all day, without really telling our body to do so. It's an involuntary act. And just simply noticing where the breath is going. If it's making you want to raise your shoulders off of the ground or away from the chair, if it's making your chest rise, if it's making your belly rise, wherever that breath is falling, we want it, of course, to be near our lungs because that's where this breath and this expansion is. So coming into the belly and into the lungs. We don't want it to cause ourselves to shrug our shoulders up toward our ears ultimately. So really just focusing on where that breath is and the feeling of that breath as it inhales and exhales go. Are you feeling cold air, warm air? Are there any scents? Are there any anything that you're feeling in your throat or anything like that? Any sensations that are coming from breath, go ahead and just acknowledge them. Know they're okay to have those acknowledgements. And then simply letting it go. Come back to that mantra. And we're going to come into a breath called Ujjayi breath, which is what yogis and yoga teachers really use, which translates to ocean breath or Darth Vader breath. So it's an inhale through the nose and an exhale through the nose, but we're going to constrict the back of our throat almost like we're going to sigh or make almost like a disgusted sound really at anything. So we'll take that deep inhale through the nose, constricting the throat. We'll exhale through the nose. Even a little breath may come out with that. So trying to find that breath, maybe take a few practice rounds of that. I'll give you a moment here. So hopefully you found where that breath is going and how it feels in your body. And then we're all going to make some small movements. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Move your wrists and ankles. Make those movements a little bigger. Get any fidgets that you have in you out and just move around on your mat or in your chair. And then everyone here. So when I had said about folding forward when you're in a chair, this is where this will apply, where you can kind of lay over top of your legs or kind of cross your arms over top and just use that as your kind of buffer so you don't have to go down too far to your legs. But we're going to go ahead and fold ourselves forward if we're in a chair and lay over our legs, or if you are on the mat, we're going to hug our knees in toward our chest. You can place your hands behind the back of your thighs or on your shins, or if you want to keep them by your side, just place the palms down and go for it. We're going to take some slight rocks though for those of you on the ground. Let's go from left to right. Just go ahead and take some rocks, make them nice and tiny, and then kind of let them grow. So we're doing this in increments. So I started out really small. We're getting a little bit bigger with our movements. So really rocking to the point that you don't topple the knees over to one side or the other, but giving yourself that little back massage on the mat here. And everyone, let's all come back into the middle. Those of you in chairs can stay as you are, or you can come up to that comfortable position. All of you on the mat, take a deep inhale in here with me through the nose. On your exhale, drop both knees over to the left side of your mat. So ultimately, we're going to keep our shoulders on the ground. So we're only twisting from basically our rib cage down. So our whole upper back and shoulders are going to stay on the mat here. We're just simply coming into this twist, this spinal twist. You'll feel it in your right side of your body most. So really coming into that here. Take some breaths. You may have one hand on your belly or one hand on your heart just to feel that connection with the breath here. See if it's changed positions, if now you're breathing more into your right side, since that's what we're focusing on. And on your next inhale, let's go ahead and bring those knees back into the middle for those on the floor. Exhale and drop them over to the right this time. So coming into that same stretch opposite sides, we're feeling that on our left side body as we drop our knees to the right side of our mats. Again, maybe placing one hand on your rib cage on the left side just to feel if that breath is coming into a different place than before. Take a moment here. And on your next inhale, bring those knees back into the middle. We're going to go ahead and just slowly set our feet down on the mat. So knees are bent and the soles of our feet are on the ground. Those of you who are in the chairs, sit that middle way forward on your chair. Sit nice and tall, and we're going to play around with crossing that ankle over our knee. So coming into what's called figure 4 position, which will make more sense in just a moment if you haven't done this before. So we're going to take our left foot off the mat and cross our left ankle over our right knee. So those of you in chairs can find this stretch if you're able, or at least give it a try. And we're going to simply stay here. So if you look up, if you lift your head, you can notice it's kind of that triangle shape that it makes in between the space that we created. And that's like that number 4 pattern. So that's why this is called figure 4 pose. So coming into this shape, You may use your left hand as a gentle weight to help keep that left hip open. And we're going to make a few little flutters with that leg. So just like you're thinking about a butterfly with wings, just go ahead and pulse here. So do about 10 of them. I'll count us down. So we're going for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stillness. Perfect. So from here, we're going to uncross that ankle, bring it back down to the ground. Let's go ahead and cross the right ankle over the left knee or left thigh this time. Maybe using that right hand to help keep that hip open, finding whatever way you'd like to feel or if whichever is best. But opening that hip up just as much as is in your comfort zone. Breathing here. And then on your next exhale, go ahead and release that stretch. Bring both soles of the feet back down to the ground. Let's bring our feet mat width distance and then just go ahead and knock your knees into the center. Those of you in chairs can attempt that too. From here, for those of you on the ground, we're going to take one more step with our hips here just to wake them up and really lubricate around any of those joints. So we're going to go ahead and windshield wiper those legs from side to side. So let's go ahead and drop both knees over toward the left, over toward the right. Go about 5 times in each direction. So just make these movements here. And feel that you're really just moving from the hips down. A couple more here, guys. And from where we are at, let's go ahead and just heel toe our feet back in so they're about hip width distance again. From here, we're going to go ahead and hug both knees into the chest for those of the ground, on the ground as well. Those of you in chairs can fold forward if you'd like. We're just going to come up to seated though, so if you're in your chair, just slowly come up to seated as we sit up. So for now, we're folded, knees are into our chest, hands are around the back of our thighs. And we're just going to give ourselves a little rock to get up to seated. So you can use some momentum and kick your feet back toward your face and do it that way. Or you can just take a little roll with your hips and just simply bring yourself to a seated position. If you're not able to do that, just feel free to use the hands. All right, just making sure that our video is still going because I am across the room here from it and I don't want to be missing anything here. All right, we're looking good. I'm just gonna here quickly plug in my, what I need here. So bear with me 1 second, guys. Just wanna make sure my battery's not gonna die. Okay. All right, guys, perfect. So now that we are in our seated position, once we're in our seat, what we're going to do for those of you on the ground is bring the soles of the feet together here on our knees, wide and heavy. You have some options. Heels, excuse me, heels can be as close to the tailbone as you'd like, or they could be further out. The further out they are, the easier the pose and vice versa. So if you need to, feel free to bring your feet out a little bit more away from your body with the soles of your feet together. Those of you who cannot bring that pose into materialization here, that's totally okay. And then just simply crisscross applesauce, cross your legs and go with that. So coming into this position though, take some rocks from side to side. Make sure that you're sitting right onto your sits bones, which is the part of your pelvis where you feel, again, where the actual bones themselves are. And we're trying to move any of the fleshy parts away, so we're sitting directly onto those bones. Sorry for the drink break. Okay, so from where we're at, we're gonna make some movement with the spine. So today we're gonna focus on a few things, mainly our hips and our spine. So spinal movement is very, very necessary, we'll put it that way. To be able to move our spine in all directions is really important. Because imagine if you're in a situation where you do need to move quickly Let's say it's you're trying to catch something, or you have to move in some strange way quickly to either grab something, or if you need to move quickly for any reason. Imagine how it may hurt your back if you make that movement rather than stretching it out more often and using that mobility and keeping that mobility. So this could help to also prevent some injuries down the line as well, in a sense. So really focusing in on this, those of you in chairs can do the same thing we're doing just by being seated. So just like I had been saying about those rocks back and forth when we were on our lower back, the same type of thing will help here. We're going to build momentum. So what I'd like you to do here, we're going to first go with our neck and then with our shoulders. So we're going to roll our neck. Let's go clockwise first, and just drop your left ear to your left shoulder. So go ahead and let your head become heavy. Let your chin come down to your chest. Right ear to right shoulder. Drop that head back. Go one more time in that direction clockwise. And then reverse it. Go counterclockwise, opposite direction. Make 2 big rolls with your neck here. And then come back into that seated position. So we're back to stillness. Now we're going to play around with our shoulders. If your hands are around your feet as they are now for what I'm doing, feel free to release that. You can just rest your arms wherever they lay, or just place them onto the ground for the moment. But we're going to roll with the shoulders a little bit here. So let's go ahead and roll the shoulders forward, all the way up toward our ears, all the way onto our back, almost if our shoulder blades are going to touch one another, and bring it back through. Go a few times in one direction, and then a few in the opposite. Again, just getting that mobility going. From where we're at, we're going to bring both arms out to our sides. So we're going to face our palms forwards. We're going to make that letter T with our arms. So we're ultimately just bringing it out here. And now we're going to go side to side a little bit, almost like you're being pulled by your hands. So go ahead and go over toward the left, toward the right. Small movements to start, make them bigger. Left and right. And keep on moving. You're feeling this in the lower part of your abs, into your sides, right where your hips are, and not really letting any part of your bottom of your body lift from the ground. We're simply going from side to side and not lifting any part of the legs or the hips. Come back into stillness here. We're going to bring our arms down. Palms can be on our knees here. So coming into a little bit of a broadening twist, we're going to keep our legs as they are. Those of you in chairs can come into this twist that I had mentioned before. So we're going to twist over toward the left side. So to help us out with that, what we're going to do is bring our right hand to our left knee, and then our left hand will come behind us with our fingertips facing back. Sit nice and tall. Take an inhale in before you do anything else. Exhale comes out, and we're going to twist over toward the left side of the room. And possibly, if it's in your body, you can bring your gaze back over that back left shoulder. Again, breathing here through the posture, through any uncomfortability. And then we're going to release that stretch slowly. Swap out the hands. Bring the left hand to the right knee and right fingertips behind. Sit nice and tall and take an inhale. On your exhale, twist over toward the right side. So those of you in my chairs, go ahead and twist over toward the right. Those of you on the mat, do the same. Maybe in either circumstance, we're going to bring our gaze toward the right or back toward that right shoulder. So find your way there. 2 more big breaths. Then untwist yourself, come back into center. And then if you need to move your legs out, because I know that's a lot on the inner hips and inner thighs, go ahead and just straighten your legs in front of you. Make some wiggles and pops off the ground with your knees. Maybe bring your knees into your chest and just place your feet there, because I know that gets intense. If you need to, just kind of do a little hug into the legs just to kind of take any tension that may have been built in that stretch out, because we were not only working our spine, we were also working our hips. So when you're ready, come back into that crisscross applesauce or soles of the feet together. Either way is fine. Now we're going to move our spine in circles here. So what I'd like for you all to do, if possible, is place hands onto knees. Those of you in chairs, just being mindful if there are any arms on those chairs. But we're going to make some small circles. So again, going clockwise first. We're going to move right from our lower torso up. If you need that extra guide, feel free to take the L fingers here, those right angle fingers with your pointer finger and thumb, right at where the bend of your hips are, and use that as a guide. So we're moving from that point of our body up through our skull here. So use that if you need, and we're going to make some small circles. So just going clockwise, making them really tiny. Taking about 3 in that sense, and then make it a little bigger. We're leaning back a little bit more. Excellent, guys, and now keep going, making that even bigger. So if we're on the ground or in our chair, we might be bowing more forward. We might be rocking back a little bit more. Come to your fullest twisting here and rotation here. So feel free to find that rock around a little bit, even on those sits bones. And then we're going to swap directions. So we're going to come back up to stillness. We're going to go the opposite way. So going counterclockwise. Go ahead and bring yourself in that small, tiny little circle first. Take a few there. Broaden it a little more. Keep going, making it even bigger. Maybe rolling around even with our hips a little bit, moving our knees as we go. And then take that fullest expression of that movement. Even if it feels silly, go with it. Then come back up to your seated position. Wonderful, guys. So coming into another twist, because I did mention, of course, we're going to focus into spinal mobility here today, as well as into our hips. So what we're going to do here is take our knees, bring them together, bring the soles of our feet to the ground. Those of you in a chair are sitting up nice and straight with your back away from the back of the chair. And we're going to extend our right leg long wherever you are at. So extend that right leg long. We're going to go ahead and lift this left foot over and cross it over our right knee or right thigh. So we're coming into this twist by simply grabbing on, hugging onto this knee that's up in the air with our right arm. We're going to bring our left fingertips behind us. So similarly to what we did with our knees wide and heavy, this is just going to bring some constriction into that left thigh, left outer thigh, and help that one out. So again, sit nice and tall. Take an inhale before you do anything at all. And on your exhale, give yourself that twist to the left. Those of you in chairs can do the same thing, even with that, that right leg extended possibly. So we're kind of coming into that twist. Maybe gaze comes back toward that back shoulder, if it's okay on the neck. 2 big breaths into the belly. And go ahead and release that twist. Same thing, opposite side. So extend that left leg out. Right foot comes to the ground and crosses over here for us. And then we're going to wrap our left arm around that right knee or right thigh. Bring our right fingertips behind us. Sit nice and tall. Take that inhale. On your exhale, give a twist over toward the right. Again, gaze may come back toward that back shoulder if it's in your body. Keep that hug into our leg here to help stretch out that outer hip. and then come all the way back into the middle. Untwist yourself here. Doing great, guys. I'm just gonna do a quick time check. Take a little breath here for yourselves. Excellent, we're looking good. So, from where we are at, guys, we're gonna come into what's called boat pose. So from your seat here, what we're going to do, and there are a few different versions of this boat, and we're gonna visit this twice today. So in our boat pose, we're gonna sit nice and tall as I am now. Those of you in chairs can just lean back and relax for a moment. Those of you on the ground with me are gonna follow along. So I have my hands beneath my thighs here, behind my thighs, okay, right at my knee crease, basically. So I'm sitting nice and tall. And you can almost practice this by taking a little rock back even with your feet on the ground. If you just extend yourself back, you'll feel where your tailbone kind of meets there. So this is my stopping point. I know I'm not gonna roly-poly backwards or forwards right here. So you can play around just simply lifting those feet a little, find that spot that makes you stay, and then rocking back. So take a few of those, find that spot, that almost emptiness between the bones to sit yourself back. Keep your core strong. So we're keeping ourselves in a straight position with our upper bodies. You'll feel this in your lower abs most. So from here, what we're gonna do is keep our hands right behind our thighs for now. We're gonna just hold it here for 3 big breaths together. Take an inhale through the nose. Exhale through the nose while constricting the throat. 2 more, inhale and exhale. 1 more left, inhale and exhale. So this time we're gonna play around here a little bit more with this pose. So we've had our hands on our legs. Let's see how independent of this we can be while staying in the same spot right between our pelvis and tailbone here. Feel free to let go of the legs. So simply float those arms. If you're even more daring, you can try straightening those legs. Hands can be behind or not. So try to play around with this shape here for just a moment. Excellent, guys. Holding that pose, just 5 more seconds here. Then go ahead and place the soles of the feet on the ground for those of you in your on your mats. And then we're just gonna hug our knees back into our chest once more. Give yourself a little hug, let your head drop down. And then we're gonna come into a standing balance pose at this point here, just to add that little extra element into things. So those of you in chairs are more than welcome to join, and you may also use your chair if you need to lean on. That's perfectly acceptable. So you can keep your chair with you and try to stand. So what we're first going to do is what's called a forward fold, but we're gonna make it a big forward fold. So we're gonna bring our feet wider than our hips, okay? So we're coming into this, I'm standing nice and tall. I feel like my puppeteer strings are being pulled up toward the sky. And then we're gonna bring those L shapes into game here again, our pointer fingers and thumbs. Bring them right to underneath of your hip bone, where you know when you fold forward or bend, where that crease almost is naturally in your body. So from here, standing nice and tall, keep that straight flat back. And now we're gonna keep that length in the spine. For demonstration purposes, I'm just gonna kind of change sides. So what we're gonna do is fold forward. So first, we're gonna come into a flat back, so which means that we're gonna bring our spine parallel to the ground. So go ahead and lean yourself forward here first. So you can see I'm coming into that flat back. I'm not rounding into it, I'm not crouching. I'm simply leaning down as far as I can. If this is your edge, while also pushing with those hands back, growing from your torso all the way up to the top of your head, you can use those hands as a guide and kind of give a little press. If you'd like a little bend in the knees, feel free to take it. If this is your edge, stay here. Otherwise, if you would like to take it further, go ahead and just let your head hang heavy, let your arms hang heavy, and come into this version of what's known as an inversion. So you can see here, I just have my fingertips on the mat. I have a little bend in my knees. And as I breathe, I'm letting myself relax more and more into the stretch. So those of you in a chair, fold yourself forward over your legs. If you have not stood up, otherwise try to come into this pose and know that your chair is nearby to help you get back out of it. So coming into this, letting that blood rush to the head, changing that circulation without putting much stress on the body. If you feel lightheaded at any moment, feel free to come out of this. But otherwise, taking 2 more breaths if you're okay with this pose. Then slowly, we're going to take our hands from wherever they are hanging down. Just walk your hands up your shins, up your knees. Let yourself slowly come out of it because you may be a bit lightheaded. Excellent, everyone. So now one last standing balance pose while we're up off of the ground or out of our chair, just to bring this handy dandy chair back into things here for us. What we have an option of doing here is called tree pose. So you can use a chair if you'd like, use a wall if you like, whichever is available to you. First, we're going to put our weight into our right foot. So go ahead and just tap your left toes to the ground. We're going to try to stand as tall as we can. So we're not leaning into that chair over toward the right like we're tipping a teapot, but we're just simply keeping our weight more distributed into the right foot. You can use that chair for stability. From here, we can kind of just turn our heel over toward our right ankle, if you will. Coming into that, again, almost number 4 pattern with our legs like we had earlier. Now, without placing this foot on our knee at any time, so we can go to our inner shin or to our inner thigh, those are pretty much our options. So if you want to stay here, hey, you're in tree pose, go for it. Otherwise, you can bring it to your inner shin. Otherwise, if you want to take it further, foot comes to our inner thigh. My personal preference is folding that foot over, which is a little bit more extreme, but that's totally fine if you want to give it a shot. So finding this tree pose, so we have that anchor, that chair nearby, that wall nearby possibly. Let's play around with our balance. So without looking down at your foot and staring right in front of you at something that's not moving to help keep that balance, we're going to go ahead and just take some seconds away, lift that hand off of the chair or wall, see your stability. Feel your entire foot just planted into the ground and how we're stable from there all the way up. Placing that hand down when you're ready, then simply releasing that foot from wherever it is. Bend at the knees, walk it out in place for a moment. Same thing, opposite side. I'm just gonna bring my chair over to the opposite. And from here, weight's going to be in our left foot. Go ahead and give yourself that little tap of your right toes where we know where we're going here now, bringing that heel into our inner left ankle. So keeping the hip open that way. Take any version of this pose. It may be different on this side than the other, so feel free to kind of take that liberty. If you want to bring it to your inner shin, if you want it to bring it to your inner thigh, or if you want to turn that foot over like I have, feel free to do so. Take a few breaths here. Play around with your balance. Take that hand off the chair or the wall if you can. 2 more big breaths. And slowly, without slingshotting that foot down, release it. Walk it out with those knees. So from where we are now, we're in our standing position. We're going to go ahead and come down to our seated position. Once again, for our Shavasana, which is what's known as our resting pose. So from where we are, my safe harbor yogis, let's go ahead and bring ourselves to our seat. So as we're standing either near our chair or our mat, we're going to come into what's called chair pose. So those of you in chairs, we're going to kind of hover above the seat for a few moments. So have everything set up of where you're going to be seated. And then we're going to look down at our feet. They're right underneath of our hips here. And go ahead and even lift up, wiggle your toes a little bit. Really Plant your feet themselves, not including your toes. Maybe even wiggle them a little bit, lift them up. We're going to keep our knees right as they are over top of our ankles, and we're just going to sit back almost as though we're going to have the chair behind us. Those of you on mats will find this a little bit more difficult than those of you who are in chairs possibly. But what we're going to do is give ourselves that fake seat. So I'm going to go ahead and bend at the knees, keep the knees where they are, and sink my hips back. So I'm coming into this almost squat. If I can look down at my feet, my toes can still be coming up toward me and I can still see them because our knees are over our ankles. That helps to protect our knees. So from where you're at, bring your hands into heart center. So bring your palms together right at your heart. Keep this pose even though you feel the burn in the legs. Hold it for 5 more seconds, and then those of you in chairs can have a seat, and those of you on your mat can come to a seat. So take 5 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sit down in your chair, or go ahead and bend at the knees and just come down to the ground. Revisiting that boat pose for just another moment, just like we did at the beginning of our class. We're going to use that and help it bring ourselves to laying down. So just keeping our practice active here. So knees can be wherever they like, hands can be wherever they like. We've been here before, so this is now at least a little bit more familiar. So from here, we're going to lower down to the ground. So we're going to lower down the count here of 5 and then rest. Those of you in your chairs can use a count of 5 and then sit back into your chair comfortably. Take a deep inhale wherever you are. Let your exhale drop you down to the ground in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, resting. Go ahead and release any tension that's in the body here. Let your whole back of your body relax into the chair or into the mat, feeling that heaviness of ourselves just simply melting into a puddle. Really feeling that throughout here. Closing the eyes, noticing any differences mentally or physically than you saw at the beginning of your class. Coming back into closed eyes, finding that mantra, that word or sentence that you created. And just coming really back into your body here for the moment. So as you were listening to all of my instructions for the class, that was our focus. Right now, our focus is stillness. So stay where you are with eyes closed. I just want to share a few words here with you that I thought resonated well with the feeling of self-love, of self-forgiveness. So there was a beautiful reading by Danielle Kopke, which says, forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for what happened, for the mistakes you've made, for poor choices, for not showing up in the way you needed to, for not being the person you wanted to be. You're human. You did the best you could in the moment given, what you knew and what you had. And that's all that you can ask of yourself. You're still learning. You're still finding your way. And that takes time. You're allowed to give yourself that time. And you're allowed to show up in the world imperfectly. You're allowed to fail at things rather, that you tried hard for. You're allowed to realize you made the wrong decision. You're allowed to be someone who's still figuring out their path and their purpose. And you're allowed to forgive yourself. You can't go back and change the decisions that have been made, but you can choose what you do today. You can keep choosing again and again. You can start over, and that's where your power is, in today. So no more beating yourself up. No more going over and over and again in your head and torturing yourself with the past. What happened, happened. And all the shame and self-hatred in the world won't undo that. Today you're starting over. Today you're moving forward with the new knowledge and experiences you have. Today, you can be the person you want to be and live the life you want to live. You're not a bad person. You're not a disappointment or a failure. You're just human. You're still learning and growing and finding your way. And it's okay. You will be okay. Slowly make some small movements either in your seat or laying down. Move the fingers and toes, the wrists and ankles. Make those movements bigger. Reach high back above your head. Come into a full body stretch. Point your toes toward the front of the room, just like you woke up from the best nap. Then hug your knees into your chest for those of you on the ground. Those of you in chairs, feel free to fold forward over those legs for the moment. And then those of you on the ground, you're going to roll over to your right side using that right arm as a pillow, coming into the fetal position, the position of new beginnings and fresh starts. Whenever you're ready, use the strength in your arms to come up to a comfortable seat, whatever that may look like for you. And just to share here for our last thought, either with your eyes closed or your gaze at the ground, there's a beautiful Buddhist prayer reading, which is all about forgiveness. So I just want to share that with you here. So what Buddha had intended is for you to be able to release any of that tension due to not forgiving. So it goes, if I have harmed anyone in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly through my own confusions, I ask their forgiveness. If anyone has harmed me in any way, either knowingly or unknowingly through their own confusions, I forgive them. And if there is a situation I am not yet ready to forgive, I forgive myself for that. For all the ways that I harm myself, negate, doubt, belittle myself, or judge, or be unkind to myself through my own confusions, I forgive myself. So to end our class here today, let's go ahead and sweep our arms out by our sides, all the way up above our heads. Bring your palms to touch up high. Seal in this energy we created, and we're going to bring our hands down to our heart center, which is the center of love and gratitude, bringing your knuckles of your thumbs right to your sternum, right at your chest. Thank you all for practicing with me. Forgive yourselves. Live a life of forgiveness instead of harboring any negativity. Thank you so much for practicing with me. We'll end with the word that means the light in me sees and honors the light in you, which is namaste. So let's bow forward and either out loud or in our minds say namaste. Thank you very, very much for practicing with me here today, everyone. As always, if you have any questions, any concerns at all, feel free to forward them over to Sarah, and I am more than happy to assist and take any answers make any answers for you. But otherwise, have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.